Welcome back to the RA podcast. I am your host Shootsy, and I'm joined by my co-host Bendy. What's up, man? How you been?
Hey, shoot, I've been good. I know it's been a little while, but we've had a lot of excitement on RA lately, so I'm glad that we finally get the opportunity to sit down in the old studio and crank out another one of these, right? We got a lot to
Yeah,
catch up on.
yeah, for sure. It has been a long time. Thank you to our loyal listeners for being patient with us. There's just been a lot going on. I moved, started a new job, and it's just been kind of crazy and hectic with scheduling for everyone on the team as well. So thank you guys for being patient. And excited to be back with you guys today. There's been a lot going on retro achievements here in the last couple months, so we've got certainly quite a bit to talk about, and we'll dive into things here in just a bit. But just to kind of give you guys an idea, there's been new systems, there's been system masters, so people that have mastered the most titles on a system. Those lists are out now. There's been lots of events, lots of projects, so we've definitely got a lot to talk about. But Bendy, what have you mainly been up to, man? What's been going on, dude?
Honestly, I feel like I keep shifting goals on RA. I keep jumping from thing to thing. I'll have like a week or 2 weeks where I'm focused on one thing, and after that, I'm focused on something else. But lately, my big new focus is this top masteries thing. So, for anyone who doesn't know, RA News is the monthly retro achievements publication, kind of in the style of Nintendo Power or one of those old classic gaming magazines. And in the most recent issue, Sting X2 introduced a new type of article that will be a continuing thing going forward, which is called, I guess he's calling it Top Masteries. And basically, what it is for each system that's supported on RA that has at least 25 games or 25 sets with a couple exceptions, he posts a list in RA News of the top 25 mastery earners for each system. So, for example, on PlayStation, it'll show the person with the number one most PlayStation masteries, the number two, number three, and so on. I was shocked to discover in this most recent issue that just came out, apparently I'm second place in Game Boy Color masteries. I don't really know how that happens. I didn't expect this. It totally caught me off guard. But like now that I realize I'm that close, I would only need three more sets to be tied for number one. So now I'm like, well, now I have to do it. Now I have to become the Game Boy Color champion. So that's kind of my focus right now. I'm playing all these garbage Game Boy Color games just because I gotta do it. This is my goal. I'm invested. I want this, man.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's pretty cool that System Masteries have come out. It's really interesting. You can see all the lists if you go to the RA News page. It's on the latest issue, so you can see where you rank if you're up there, or you can see kind of who's at the top for each one. And yeah, it's pretty exciting for you. I'm sure that you're right there, almost at number one for that, because that is kind of a cool title to have. And yeah, I mean, as far as the system masteries are concerned, I think it could also have kind of a I mentioned this a little bit before when we were talking before we started recording, but just kind of have a little bit of an interesting precedent, a little bit of a culture shift too, because a lot of people on the site, we've discussed this in the past. They play for points, or um, they play for fun, or they play for a mix of both. Some people play for retro ratio, and so on and so forth. So it's just kind of interesting to see what kind of culture shift this might end up causing with people just exclusively focusing on a system and trying to become the champion of that. And for me, for Game Boy, ended up being number one, which is kind of exciting. Um, I am still continuing to try and play Game Boy games as much as I can, so that I don't get that System Master Champion title swooped out from under me. But yeah, there's some competition on that one as well. So, but yeah, I've been kind of just kind of focusing on trying to have fun these days, and I haven't been able to play as much as I want. I mentioned to you a little bit that just work is keeping me busy. I'm no longer work from home, so I've been trying to just play as much as I can. one of the things that some of my friends know that I'm working on is I'm trying to master every King of Fighters game for arcade, and I've done three of them. So I've done 94, 95, and 96. 97 is definitely given me quite a bit of pushback. So just kind of working through that. And then, Game Boy titles that are coming out. There have been a lot of Game Boy titles that have been coming out because there's just there were a lot of revisions that came out in the last few months. Improving the quality of a lot of these sets that were real basic and just had beat level 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So there's just been a plethora of different Game Boy sets that have gotten some really fantastic revisions, and a lot of devs that have put just a ton of hard work into these revisions of these sets. So there's been lots and lots of uh, Game Boy revisions coming out, and I've had a pretty good opportunity to go back and play through a lot of these titles that I mastered back when they had a more basic set up for them. But one of the things that we always talk about, it feels like on every episode, but it's definitely worth mentioning, is just that a lot of these more obscure systems are getting a lot of sets for them. Systems that only have a couple sets are getting more and more sets. I know 32X has gotten a few more sets, and that catalog's gotten expanded. um, I know 3DO has gotten a couple more sets as well. And then I know Neo Geo Pocket is also getting a lot of love. So it's pretty crazy to see what's going on with that. And I think part of that too is because of DevQuest, which is a badge that devs can earn for completing um, a certain number of sets and things like that. I don't know the specifics of that, so I don't want to pretend as though I do, but I know that that probably partially has to do with why some of these more obscure system categories are getting expanded upon, which is great. It's really cool to see that there's these incentives on the site like that and system mastery that are kind of breaking up the game a bit, and how people choose to use the site. But it's not it's not a negative, you know what I mean? It's all positive as far as people trying things they haven't tried before, people branching out into new systems, and people kind of creating these different paths that they're going down that they would have never wanted to do in the past. Like you said, uh, you're going down this Game Boy Color path that you would not have normally taken just because of uh, wanting to snag that mastery title, right? That champion title. So it's pretty cool to see all these things that have happened in the last few months, and to um, kind of get to try them out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing we need to keep in mind is we're just a bunch of dorks who love earning achievements, right? We're the types of people who get motivated by this little virtual number popping up, this little text saying, hey, you did a thing in a video game. And basically, what I mean when I say that is it doesn't take much to get us really excited over something. So that's why I think it's really cool that things like the top mastery lists and things like DevQuest are giving us that little extra motivation, that little extra push. Because I don't know about you, but for me, that's really all I need. That little bit extra gives me so much more motivation to go for my goals. Something we've talked a lot about on the show is I love badge hunting. I love finding all the absolute lowest hanging fruit and just accumulating as much badges as I can. I've kind of slowed down a bit in that. I used to be getting one every day at least for a peak streak, and then I kind of slowed down after a while. But like now, with all of these different goals, the Game Boy Color thing in particular, the top masteries, some of the events I've been participating in, it's been getting me to really master more games, and especially some games that I really wouldn't play normally. Before we run too much into that, though, I want to dial back a little bit. You were talking about this King of Fighters goal that you're working on. I want to
Yep.
know more about that because King of Fighters is a series I honestly don't know that much about. I know it's a fighting game, and I know it's pretty popular. I think they did yearly releases or something at some point, but I don't really know that much about it. So, what was it that inspired you to take on this goal in particular, and how's that been going for you? How much progress are you making there?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, King of Fighters, it's the obviously fighting game. I've been big fan of fighting games for most of my life and grew up with a lot of them. And didn't actually grow up with King of Fighters at all. It's not as popular in the United States, I don't think, as internationally in other countries. But um, as far as King of Fighters is concerned, a lot of the achievement sets were made by different people. So that's kind of interesting to see different people's takes on the different years of King of Fighters. And one of the things about each of the sets is that they definitely have um, a lot of achievements in them, but some that are really just more challenge. There's a lot of I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. I guess a little bit tongue tied, but there's like a good mix of like medium difficulty, real difficult stuff, and then stuff that's like really straightforward. And each set has 70 plus, I want to say 70 plus achievements. I know the King of Fighters 97 that I'm working on now has like 112. Let's see, 96 had 96. Yeah, 96 had 96. King of Fighters 95 had 58. So they have they have quite a few. Yeah, and then 50 for 94. So they had quite a few achievements in them. But like a lot of fighting games in general, the breakdown of achievements is usually complete the game with each character. There's cast all the special moves with this character. And then that's across the board with all characters. There's survival mode, time attack, and then of course the infamous death of mastery for many of us, the 1cc completions. So the one credit completion. So that was kind of one of the biggest issues for me with 94, and just being able to do that. um, the desperation moves, or what you would call the special moves, they're called desperation moves in King of Fighters. The reason they're called desperation moves is because you can cast them when your health is flashing when it's low, or you can cast them when you've powered up by holding all three of the three out of four, because there's A, B, C, and D for arcade for the buttons. So if you hold down three of the four buttons, you have this meter that you power up, and then when it's at full, you can cast a desperation move, or you can cast as many desperation moves as you would like when your health is flashing. The key is that your health is flashing, so you have to be careful, because the um, combinations for those moves are somewhat difficult for some of the fighters. It really just depends. I'm pretty terrible at doing, like, I don't have a fight stick, so I'm on my 8-bit dough. So trying to do double half circle back when the opponent is close can be kind of a pain in the butt, or half circle forwards when the opponent is close, because double half circle forward is not that bad of a motion to do, but when the opponent has to be close and they're like constantly attacking you, it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. But there have been some interesting struggles just with King of Fighters. I know for like 96, that one was, of the three I've played so far, that one was the most difficult, just because of survival mode. I don't think 94 and 95 had survival mode. Survival mode is mode that's in a lot of fighting games, where it's just like you have to play through to the end of the story mode, but the difference is that your health carries over from the previous fight. And so I think I want to say it was, oh, like there's 8 different difficulties on King of Fighters, and you had to do difficulty 8 survival mode full completion. And there's no continues in survival mode. That's the idea as well. Yeah, that was a 50-point achievement. Okay. So that one was pretty difficult just to get through, and the last boss on King of Fighters 96 compared to 94 and 95 is he's he's a bit of a pain in the butt, to say the least. He's just really really annoying. Like he just does a lot of zoning, and just have to be really careful about how you handle that. But the thing that's giving me a lot of difficulty in 97 is just one, I have less time, so I'm not able to kind of focus as much on it. But two, just some of these combination achievements are Um, a little more tricky because you have to do a few hits lining up into a desperation move rather than just a desperation move. There's also a super desperation move too, where there's the power mechanic that I talked about, the power up, and if your health's flashing, then you do what's called a super desperation move, which is like the highest form of that special where you do the most hits. And for a lot of the characters, even that's not enough hits on a combo to unlock the achievements. You have to kind of be a little bit creative about how to do some of those. But I'm just plugging away through it, and then, like I said, just kind of doing Game Boy sets as well. I could go on and on, but um, the goal is to just finish. I think we're up through. Let's see. I think we have up through 2002 on King of Fighters. Yeah, there's 94 through 2002. So I've done 94, 95, 96. Like I said, I'm working on 97. Once or if I finish 97, I think I'm probably just going to take a break and just try and get caught up with all these other amazing sets that have been coming out, because I feel like just there's so much stuff coming out that I see in Core Set Log every day that I just really haven't been able to fully enjoy or even get to take a look at, mainly just because I've been kind of focused on, one or two things, and that's pretty much it. And with Project Game Boy in full swing still as well, with Game Boy revisions coming out, it's been tough to to stay focused on one direction. But what about you, man? I know you're got the, like you said, you've got the Game Boy Color challenge going on. You've been doing a lot of events, so tell me a little bit more about kind of where you've been at for the last 2 months, because I'm sure people want to know.
Yeah, so I feel like I have all of these different goals that are kind of feeding into one another, if that makes sense. Like there's a certain amount of overlap between my different goals. So the Game Boy Color thing, that's recent. I just started that very recently. I haven't really gone super hard on the grind, but I've done a little bit of planning. I've looked over the list of games, and there are definitely a lot that I could probably master without too much trouble. I think I could be the champion by next month without too much issue, unless the person above me just goes hard on Game Boy Color in this month, but probably not, probably not. Outside of that, I've been doing a lot of site events. So things like Challenge League. Challenge League has been the big one for me. So I'm not sure if we've really talked about Challenge League on the show. I think we might have talked about it a little bit during its first month when Leapfrog was the big event going on, but we haven't really touched base on what's been going on with Challenge League since then. So basically, what Challenge League is it's a big year-long event, and on a approximately once a month basis, there are all these different little, I guess you could call them challenges. And each challenge has a certain objective you need to meet, and then you get credit for that month. If you get credit for all of the months, then you're good. You get the badge or whatever. What I really like about Challenge League is, in addition to original challenges, like we just had a bingo challenge recently, which was pretty fun. We had to screenshot ourselves finishing objectives on our bingo board and all these different RA games. They also do a lot of crossovers with other events on the site. So they've done crossovers with Leapfrog, my own event Peak Streak, and The Unwanted. And just recently, I've been going really hard on Unwanted games. So The Unwanted is an event that I've never really gotten super into in the past. I think I've done like one or two Unwanted games here or there, but I've never really got super into it in the sense of, okay, I'm going to try to get bronze, silver, gold qualifications and stuff. Because if you're not familiar with The Unwanted, I guess to make a long story short, it's an event that serves to highlight the least played games on RA. And there are incentives for beating these games, there are incentives for mastering these games. Then there's also developer incentives for making these games better, because some of these sets, and so few people have played them, they're kind of neglected. They might be in need of ticket fixes, they might be in need of a whole rework in some cases. So basically, whether you're a player or a dev or both, there's a lot of ways to contribute to the unwanted. If you want to do it solely as a player, it can be challenging, but it's definitely possible, which is what I just did in this past month. So I saw for Challenge League, one of the crossovers was with the Unwanted. You had to get bronze, silver, and gold's qualification, which an easier way of understanding what that means is basically you got to do a lot of unwanted stuff within 1 month. So when I saw that was in Challenge League, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to wait until an easy month comes along. Or if not an easy month, I just want to have a month where a lot of the games on the list appeal to me. And I was looking at the games this month and I was like, I think this might be my month. A lot of these seem doable. Some of them ended up being less doable than I expected, but I did end up getting my bronze, silver, and gold qualification in time, and man, that was a lot of fun. But, that's exactly what I meant on how my goals are bleeding into one another. So while I'm doing the unwanted, I'm also getting Challenge League credit. While I'm getting Challenge League credit, I'm also getting masteries. I might have mastered a Game Boy Color game or two in there. And then I also started up Peak Streak again because that's another Challenge League thing. So I figured I only need 10 days to knock that one out. I might as well start that up. I have that in progress at the moment. I'm still not sure if I'm just going to do the 10 days and dip or if I'm going to actually try to push it. I don't know, man. I've got all these different goals I'm jumping in between, and I don't know if I want to sit here and try to push a really long streak right now. But basically, it's like it's this meta game of RA, right? As much as I enjoy just playing whatever I want to play, I really enjoy having that bigger game within a game or a game outside of the game, I suppose, where I have these little extra reasons to play certain games, to master certain sets, to prioritize certain things. And honestly, I'm having a great time. I would say maybe this is a little hyperbolic to say, but I feel like we're in the golden age of events right now. And I'm sure some of you listening have probably never gotten involved in side events, and that's okay. Maybe it doesn't float your boat, or maybe you're just intimidated, don't know where to start. But like, I feel like Challenge League is the perfect starting point because it's got all of these different mini events and you could start with any of them at any time. You don't have to, like when I say there's a new challenge each month, that's true, but they remain active for the entire year. So you could jump into whichever one tickles your fancy. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been doing them out of order, just whatever appeals to me at any moment. Once I finish up Peak Streak, I think Leapfrog is the only one I'll have left. I attempted Leapfrog way back during the first month, and I ended up failing. And I told myself, well, I have the entire year to do it, so no rush. But I don't know. Maybe I'll maybe I'll focus on that soon, and then while I'm doing Leapfrog, do mostly Game Boy Color games. Like it's gotten to the point where it's kind of a puzzle to see how can I fit together all these little goals of mine. How do I make them fit into each other nicely to have as much overlap as possible? But yeah, I'm having a great time right now, man. RA is in a really good zone. It's right up my alley. These events, it's great.
Yeah, man, that's excuse me, that's awesome that you're able to do something where you feel like you're just being really um almost like efficient the way you kind of talk about it, just like being able to overlap different goals that you have with the events and also be able to master things and be able to get points. And myself, it's been a while since I did a site event. I haven't done one since like achievement of the week, I think years ago, just because I feel like with my schedule and things like that, it'd be really tough to just keep up with everything. I mean, I have a tough time, keeping with up with everything as it is, because I can tell you that just looking at course set log recently, there's at least half a dozen sets minimum that I want to do, and I'm really on this kick of wanting to start things that I finish. Unfortunately, with King of Fighters, that kind of is making playing other things a tough reality. So maybe I'll just give it a break for a bit. I'm pretty close to finishing it, but I mean, I just there's just so much stuff I feel like that's flying right past me in core set log that I really want to do. And typically, in the past, the way that I used to do it is I used to play three different games at a time. Like I would stream a little bit of one game, and then the other two I would just play offline. And thankfully, I have had an opportunity. I didn't stream for a long time, but I kind of started doing that a little bit every week, just whenever I feel like it. Not on a set schedule or anything like that, because I really miss it. And I think everything that I've streamed has just been has been new Game Boy titles that have come out. There's been like Tailgater, um, there's been Tailspin, there's been like a Fist of the North Star revision, which was fun. I think I did that one offline, but um, the James Bond curse was broken since the last time that we uh did a podcast. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
I
cool.
I wanted to talk to you about that because when I saw that set go up, the first thing I thought of was, "Oh, that's that game Shoot was talking about." I
Yep,
remember the
yep.
first time you brought this up on the podcast. I want to say you said it's like Zelda, but it's James Bond on the Game Boy or something like that. And
Yep.
I was just immediately intrigued. I wanted to know more. So, yeah, how is that? I'm guessing you've played it and mastered it by now, right? How does the set hold up?
Yeah, so I did finish it when it first came out in like the first day or two, or it took me like a couple days cuz I just yeah, doing that set all in one day. You could probably finish it all in one day. It's a pretty quick set if you know what you're doing, but shout outs to Snowpin on another amazing set. That guy puts out a lot of great Game Boy sets, and that's no exception. Yeah, it's like Zelda but with James Bond. You have like an A button and a B button that you can equip items to and use them, and there's kind of like some RPG elements to it, like you need to talk to um, different people at certain points to progress the story, or need to use certain gadgets in certain areas to progress the story. And overall, the set holds up pretty well. There's like a damage list for every boss. I think well, maybe not every boss. I think every boss. It'd be tough because it's been a little while, but a little bit of a backstory on that title is you know that one goes back to my childhood. Think I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you probably remember me talking about um that title being the one where we played it at a friend's house, and then we came home, and then we're eating dinner. This was back when I was real young. We're eating dinner. You sit down at the table and you eat dinner with your family, and that was back when home phones were a thing, like landlines. Pretty much nobody has those anymore. But um, the kid that we were at the house, his house, our friend, he calls up, and my dad got mad because he called up and he's like, "Hey, what do I do next here or whatever?" Because I think I had figured it out, but on a different file, because the title has uh, three different save slots. And then he called back like 5 minutes later, as right after we had continued, eating dinner and things like that. So that one has kind of a backstory to my childhood. And so that was for a long time the number one most requested Game Boy set. Uh, it's just, I think, we kind of joked of it being the curse set because multiple people had picked it up and wanted to dev it and had worked on it. But then, things came up. They had obligations. They had real life issues come up, and so the title had been dropped two or three times already. So when that uh, title came out, I was really excited about it, and that's definitely one that you should go check out if you love Game Boy games and you love, like, even if you just like hidden gems. That game is definitely a hidden gem in the Game Boy catalog. It's super fun. There's a little, like I said, a little bit of RPG elements, a little bit of combat elements, and yeah, you'll see what I mean when uh, I say that you get the Zelda vibe from it a little bit. So that was really exciting that that title finally got developed and put out there, and like I said, I just really enjoyed that one a lot. And then one of the other titles that I'm not sure how many requests this had, but this is a really cool game as well for Game Boy that I enjoyed recently, was it's called Skate or Die, which had a Nintendo counterpart as well. But the Game Boy version of it is really interesting. It's like a um, platformer a little bit. It's got platforming elements to it, and it's a brutal. I think one of the reviews I read for it back in the day was like, "Yeah, this is a brutal exercise and memorization," but that was a really fun one as well. It's got really good music. There's even boss fights. You're fighting bosses on a skateboard, so also a pretty cool one. So shout outs to Mini BT on putting that out there. That's a childhood favorite of mine as well. So
On the topic of cursed sets, when you said that about James Bond, it just got me thinking about another set which just came out recently, which is Bowser's Inside Story on DS, the third Mario and Luigi RPG. So the set is by Blue Yoshi, and this has been one of the most requested games on the site for a really long time now. So I feel like we got to talk about it. Personally, I love the Mario and Luigi RPG series, and I think this is maybe the best one. If not the best one, then definitely one of the best. It's so good. And for the longest time, we've known there's demand for this game, but no one has been able to figure out how to make a set for it. Because, so throughout the game, there are a few required mini games, right? And these mini games use different features of the DS, like the touchscreen and, all the little things that make the DS unique. Unfortunately, that includes the microphone, and the microphone emulation in both of so there are two different DS cores that have retro achievement support, and they both handle microphone emulation in slightly different ways. But unfortunately, neither of them are effective enough to get you through get you through these mini games. They kind of just they blow generic sound, if that makes sense, rather than letting you actually speak into your microphone like you would actually speak into a DS microphone. So the longest time, there's been this dilemma of, on one hand, it's one of the most requested DS sets, or really one of the most requested sets on the site. But on the other hand, how the heck can we make a set if you can't beat the game? So Blue Yoshi comes along and comes up with this ingenious solution. I was at the point where I wasn't sure if we'd ever see a set for this game, and I'm so happy to see it finally on the site. It is a little bit complicated. I guess I haven't played it yet, but my understanding is you end up needing to at certain checkpoints in the game, you need to move your save over to a separate, standalone, non RA emulator, advance past that part, and then jump back to your usual, RetroArch or RA Retro or whatever you use. And it's a little jank, but I feel like it's worth it to experience, such an amazing game. Like, this game is so requested for a reason, and I am so excited to play it. But yeah, I could kind of feel what you were saying about how, like, it seems like the core set log is on fire lately. I keep seeing a lot of my games that have been on my wish list, or my what's it called? Not wish list. I'm trying to think of the name for it. My
the
requested sets.
yeah, the request
Yeah.
list.
A
Yeah,
lot of the games
the
that have been on my
requested sets. Yeah.
request list for a long time now, they're starting to get sets. And now I'm in the situation where it's like, oh shoot, I want to play this so badly, yet I have all these other little goals I'm working on right now. How am I going to fit this in here? Another one that just got a set recently was Dragon Quest 9 on DS, which is fantastic, fantastic game. Love that game so much. But, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I can't jump into another massive RPG like that right now. There's no way. I've got way too much stuff I'm juggling. So I don't know. I guess that's the downside of spreading yourself too thin is there's only so much time in the day, and you kind of have to choose which goals, which games do I want to prioritize. And that's been kind of difficult at times. I will say though, man, everything you're saying about that James Bond game, that sounds right up my alley. I don't know how soon I'll be able to get to it, but that's definitely something I think I gotta check out at some point. I've never heard of it outside of talking to you. Maybe it's a hidden gem. Maybe I'm just out of the loop, but I think I gotta check it out. I think I gotta check it out. I'm always down for anything in the realm of Zelda. I'm in, dude. I'm in.
Yeah, it's it's definitely a lesser known title for sure, but I mean it was the number one most requested Game Boy title for a long time, and so that prophecy has been fulfilled. Um, uh, the title's finally out and people can enjoy it. And I know you like your badges, so it's not too long of a set, Bendy. So hopefully you do check that one out as well. And to your point and what you were saying, just yeah, core set log is on fire. And I've always said this, is just that it's kind of a good problem. It's not a bad problem to have, right? To have all these titles coming out and all these different things to check out. And I think, I don't want to harp on it too much and go over it and rehash it, but I think my main problem with enjoying the site lately has just been I'm too set on this, like, I have to finish whatever I start, and so I feel a little bit trapped in that sense. And um, like I said, I used to play 3 titles at a time, typically one on stream, two off, and now I'm kind of a 2 title person, just because I feel like that's about as thin as I can stretch myself before it just becomes too much. And I am still focused on kind of trying to hit that 90% completion, average completion, which I'm at like 87 and a quarter, so I'm not too far off from that, but I can't hit it if I just keep starting new things. So that's kind of a delicate balancing act that I'm working in between right now. But I mean, this conversation, um, I'm not even joking, has kind of made me think maybe I need to not be so hard on myself and maybe just kind of like you know what I mean? Just kind of enjoy things and uh break away from that King of Fighters goal every once in a while. That's a that's a big mountain to climb. I'm surprised I could even master one King of Fighters title, let alone 3 of them. So, Rome wasn't built in a day. No one mastered King of Fighters 94 through 2002 in a day either. As far as I know. So, um I think it's just something where maybe I need to kind of peel things back a little bit or dial things back a bit and start checking out some of these things. Because I mean, literally looking through core set log as we're talking, and I mean, there's just so much stuff that looks awesome. I mean, even the Magnavox Odyssey system is getting a little bit expanded. There was one title for it for a long time. Now there's like 3. There's a lot of fighting games that have come out that I really want to check out that probably aren't as unforgiving as King of Fighters. So that's maybe an avenue that I could start taking a look at. There's been, some more Zelda hacks that have come out. I'm a big fan of the Zelda 64, any of the the Ocarina of Time, any of those type of hacks are really really fun. Um, I think there's been also some Game Boy stuff that I've ended up missing just because when there's this much stuff coming out, it's almost inevitable that some stuff is going to slip through the cracks, right? So there's just been so much stuff coming out that it's really just been difficult to. Oh, it looks like I didn't even know it, but there's a Street Fighter Alpha 3 revision. I never even played the original for Advance, so that's something I need to check out. Just all this stuff, man, is like crazy to me. And I do check. Um, I do check core set log at least once a day, even being as busy as I am, and um, it's just been tough to keep up. Makes me kind of a little bit bummed. Not bummed on retro achievements, just bummed that it's so tough to keep up with all this stuff that's happening. But like I said, maybe there's nothing to really be bummed out about. I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have that there's just an ever growing catalog of things and activities and events to do. From Step Brothers, so many activities. so so
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, there's a lot to do. And I don't know. I mean, is there anything on the horizon for you as far as sorry if you answered this earlier, I didn't catch it, but I mean, is there anything on the horizon for you as far as kind of set releases that have come out that you're interested in that you just haven't gotten around to because you're so busy, or is there anything like that that's out there for you?
Oh, there's so many, right? So basically what I've gotten into the habit of doing is I've realized that I'm not going to be able to keep up with all the stuff I'm interested in that's showing up in core set log because there's just too much good stuff. But I have taken to compiling a list, just like a personal list. When there's something I want to play, I make a note of it, add it to the list, because I found that if I don't do that, time will pass and I'll just forget about things. Like, for example, you just mentioned all the Zelda hacks that have been coming out recently, and that just jogged my memory. One of the games I've really been wanting to play is the Ocarina of Time bonus set, which, is kind of weird and different for me because. So basically, what the set is it's all about the glitches of Ocarina of Time, right? All of the crazy little glitches and tricks you could do in that game. And that game has such an active speedrunning community that there's a lot of interesting stuff you could do. For me personally, I've never learned how to do, I only know how to do very, very, very few glitches or tricks in that game, most of which I've picked up through playing the randomizer. But I don't know. I want to learn. I'm not necessarily interested in speedrunning because I feel like it's frustrating to have to try to do these frame perfect tricks with any sort of consistency, right? But I
Right.
like retro achievements because you could pull it off once and it's like, hey, you get an achievement. So even if it's really, really tough, you only have to pull it off once. I had a great feeling of satisfaction playing the Mario 64 bonus set. There's an achievement in there where you had to beat Bowser in the Dark World with 0 stars. And you think you normally need 7 stars to get through that door. So you end up having to perform this really elaborate trick. But the thing is, I'm not a speedrunner. I don't have to do it every time I run. I just have to do it once, get the achievement, I'm good. And I think that's one of my strengths, right? No matter how challenging something is, if I'm persistent enough, I could probably get it. Not always, but if it's something I care about, if it's a game I love, I could probably pull it off. But yeah, man, it's there's too many good games these days. I agree that it's a good problem to have, but I don't know. I think it's tough setting your priorities. We've talked a lot today about goals and stuff, and right now I'm enjoying having all these different goals that I'm juggling. But for another player, that might not be their preferred way of doing things. I feel like the purpose of goals are, at least for me, the purpose of these sorts of goals is to motivate me when I don't know what to play, or I need that extra push to make games more fun, or just a little something extra. If you're overloaded with games that you really, really want to play, then it's like just play the games that you really, really want to play. But I don't want to tell you how to play. Everyone has their own preferences, everyone has their own way of doing things. I will say, though, one game that showed up in Core Set Log recently, a new release that I did sit down and make some time for because it was just such a weird new release that I had to do it, is the Game Boy Advance video series by Spory Tyke. Do you know about these? Do you know what this is?
I actually I didn't even see that one. I'm not familiar with that. No, what is that?
All right, so back during the Game Boy Advance era, there was a series of cartridges. There were a whole bunch of them called Game Boy Advance Video. And basically, what they are is they took all these different cartoons and even a few movies and they put them on Game Boy Advance cartridges of all things. So you could sit there on your Game Boy Advance and watch, SpongeBob or Jimmy Neutron or Shrek or whatever. And, the obvious thing is, how do you make an achievement set out of that? That's not a game. People just boot it up, fast forward through, get the achievements, and you're done. So Spory Tyke comes up with I don't know if he's the one who came up with the idea, but he's the one who developed the set. And it's this absolutely ingenious idea. So basically, you watch through the episodes of like Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob or whatever it may be, uh, and then at the end of the episode, it asks you a trivia question. And the way it asks you the trivia question is through a leaderboard pop up. So, like, there's a leaderboard that's like, hey, what happened in this scene? Or what did this character say at this part or something? And then you have multiple choice options that you could choose one of four options. When you choose an option with a direction on the D pad, it submits the leaderboard and then it either gives you the achievement or not gives you an achievement. And when I heard about this, it blew my mind. This has got to be one of the most creative uses of the RA tools that I've seen. Like the absolute madman, they found a way to turn Game Boy Advance video into an achievement set that actually requires effort. And I just think it's hilarious and amazing. And, it helps that a lot of the cartoons that are on there are things I grew up with. So it's been kind of nice revisiting those. Obviously, it is Game Boy Advance, so the audio and visual quality are pretty crusty, but I don't know. There's something weirdly charming about it. It's just such a weird novelty that I had to check it out. And I would recommend it if, you grew up with these cartoons, or you just want to see something weird and different that's possible with the RA tools that we have to work with. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of man, I am so backlogged. I'm just going through. I didn't even know there was a Final Fight Sega CD version of Final Fight that came out. That's I need to check that out. I'm a big Final Fight fan, at least the first one. I haven't played the second or the third one, so that's pretty crazy. But you talked a little bit about the Zelda bonus set, and I think that would be I would struggle with that for sure because I'm not a speedrunner. Um, I used to like do my goal back in the day, way before I played RA, or one of the goals and things I did is I really liked watching any percent Ocarina of Time. So I wanted to learn the whole run and not compete for the best time, but just be able to finish a whole any percent run. And eventually I did, but doing some of those glitches and things like that can be really challenging. And I know for sure for me, it took uh, a long time to be able to do that, just to be able to get through that run, especially the Ganondorf where you warp from the Deku Tree to Ganon's castle is like very, very difficult to practice. And eventually I got it. But yeah, I mean, that's what bonus sets are, right? Like bonus sets are for those extra challenging achievements and not for the faint of heart. That's why they're bonus sets. So I think it definitely has its place as a bonus set. But yeah, I'm still just going through core set log as we're talking here. I know Tower of Turmoil got a revision. It looks like that was that quick little NES like platformer game with a few bosses back in the day. Like just all this stuff, man. It's crazy. And then we haven't even talked about Watara Supervision yet. That's something that comes to mind as well. So for people that aren't too familiar with that system, it's kind of like a knockoff Game Boy, so to speak. There's that meme on the Discord of the jealous girlfriend meme of like me looking at the at the Watara Supervision with the jealous girlfriend one being the Game Boy in the background, which just cracks me up. But um, yeah, Watara Supervision is a system that it's kind of like a knockoff Game Boy and the library, I mean, I'm not sure if it's fully complete. I want to say it's either really close to fully complete or it's fully complete at this point, because Sporytyke was making like a set a day for it. But it's pretty interesting little system. There's a lot of cool games for it. I think one of the reasons it didn't succeed is because the Game Boy just ended up having more like versatile titles. It was a little more, I want to say a little bit more powerful, although I don't know the specifics on the breakdown of the actual hardware between the two systems because they seem very similar just based on the graphics and things like that. But the Atari Supervision has a lot of fun sets on it. There's 58 sets for it right now, and it was a brand new system, a little over a month ago. So if you're looking for a new system that's already got a really deep library of games, that would definitely be a place to check. And lots of these titles are really short, they're really quick titles too. Um, but it's still an interesting system nonetheless. I mean, I probably mastered like, I don't know, maybe half a dozen games on it. So there's a lot of fun games. I will say there is a lot of jankiness with the system itself and the games on it. So be prepared for that. That's nothing against the devs. That's just how the system is. Like some of the titles just don't run really well on it, or like the the mechanics of the games are really like crazy and don't line up very well, and there's can be lag and things like that, like input lag depending on the title. But there are some fun titles on the Watara Supervision, and it's awesome that in such a short period of time they were able to develop so many sets for a brand new system. I mean, I feel like a lot of the times when we get a new system, it just takes some time for the system catalog to get fleshed out. I think obviously in this case, being that the memory is relatively simple and there aren't that many memory addresses, that's one of the things that probably contributed to the rapid development of um, the sets that came out for it. But nonetheless, that and Spory doing a set every day for it, like one set per day, is pretty crazy. But that's awesome that he put so much time into it and making these sets for it, because I think a lot of people have been just enjoying the different sets on it. There's like a lot of shmups I've noticed on the Watara, so if you're a big shmups fan, that might be a good system to check out. Um, and then there's some like knockoff titles, like there's like Snake, Pang, which is like Buster Brothers. There's like not really many fighting games on it. There's quite a few puzzle games on it. So overall, it's kind of just a interesting little system, and I think because I've been lurking your profile a little bit, Bendy. I know you played a little bit on it as well. I believe at least a few for your badges, right?
Yeah, I've played a little bit of Watara. I'd like to play more. I feel like I haven't really delved deep into the console fully yet, quite yet. I just kind of knocked out a few that seemed quick and easy. But man, I find the whole thing hilarious. So you have this console that, first of all, no one's heard of the thing, right? I believe it was originally introduced as a competitor to the Game Boy. I say competitor. It was really more of a knockoff. I mean, you look at pictures of the thing, it looks like a Game Boy. You got the D-pad on the left, the buttons on the right, basically the same button layout. You got the screen up top. It looks just like a Game Boy. It's got the same LCD black and white screen. Uh, but the fascinating thing about this system to me, is it shows up on retro achievements. Everyone's like, huh, Watara Supervision, what's that? And then I don't know why, for some reason, it seems like this is the one system that the whole community came together and they're just like, showed this system so much love. Probably more love from this side of the internet than this system has seen, ever, or at least in decades since it was out. And yeah, it only has 60 something games, and nearly all of them have sets by this point. Not quite all of them. I just looked while you were talking earlier. We're up to 58 sets right now. So we're getting really close to a full set. And it's fascinating to me, right? We have all of these consoles on RA that are only slightly supported, only really have a few sets. And then this bootleg Game Boy comes out of nowhere, and suddenly all of RA is holding hands in harmony, wanting to support the heck out of this thing. We've seen some really talented developers come forward and really give it their all towards supporting this thing. As you mentioned, Spory Tykes, one set a day for a month was incredible. Just wow, really incredible. But then, like, so many high profile devs have made sets on this thing. It's like everyone wanted to get in on the action. I suppose it does help that the games are very simple, the memory is very simple, so it's easy to jump in on the fun. The games are very small. And a lot of
Yeah,
them, they're typically games that you beat in one sitting. They're not the type of games where it's like, okay, I'm going to save and come back to it later. I don't even know if it has a battery save capability. I don't think I've played any game that uses it if it does. But I don't know.
yeah.
It's funny because I feel like we're all thinking the same thing, right? We're all thinking, okay, yeah, but the games suck though, right? And like, yeah, they kind of do. I mean, let's be real. They kind of suck, right?
They kind of do.
They kind of do.
Like
But
I have nothing bad to say about like obviously the devs that develop the sets, but like I remember playing the Tetris one, and like the the freaking like the Tetris in this version of Tetris, like the block, you can't like move the block and turn it at the same time. So it's just like I remember just like dying a few times because I just can't. Oh, it's called Blockbuster. It's by Delmaru. So shout
yeah,
outs to
yeah, yeah.
Delmaru on making that set. But like, just yeah, it was just so the controls are just so janky. It's just like trying to get the 200 or get the yeah, the 200 lines and like you're just like, why is it not turning? Why is it not
Dude,
turning?
I
So
I played that one too. You know what's my
yeah,
absolute favorite thing about that game?
what's that?
So I boot up the game, I start playing it, and I start listening to the music, and I think to myself, hey, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. Where have I heard this before? Did you notice when you played it?
I think I played without sound,
Oh, you
so
missed out, my dude.
what was what
So
was
this is the funniest thing. I could not believe what I was hearing. The music is it's straight up the main theme from Super Mario Land.
oh my
Like
god,
not
I
subtle
did miss out.
whatsoever.
Yeah,
So they change. First of all, it's a very short loop. It's not the full song, and they changed the very end slightly to make it like worse. But it's straight up Super Mario Land. It's so recognizable, and
that's
I just thought that was the
awesome.
funniest thing ever. You got this system that's obviously copying the Game Boy. It's copying Tetris because it was the popular Game Boy game, and then they went that one step further and they copied the Super Mario Land overworld theme, and I was just cracking up. I cannot believe what I was playing. Like, how is this a real thing? This is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, this funny little things like that, but it's Blockbuster, man. It's not Tetris. You're busting blocks, okay? You're
Yeah,
not
dude,
besting
gotta bust them
Tetraminos.
all.
So, yeah, the Watara Supervision coming out, needless to say, has been kind of an interesting thing, and I know a lot of people have really been enjoying that system quite a bit. Just playing through the different games on there. I mean, there are, like you said, there are a lot of games that are just bad on there, but it's still cool to kind of see what they tried to do, right? To see what their ideas were. And we talked a little bit about kind of just circling back here, we talked a little bit about system masters, and you mentioned that you're close on Game Boy, and I was just kind of looking at my list of things I did here as well. And for Saturn, uh, I'm number two at the moment, but I'm only a few off from being number one. So that's something else that's kind of possibly on my horizons for the future. And I think one of the reasons I ended up getting number two for it is because a bunch of fighting games came out from blah blah blah. So shout outs to him on making a lot of interesting fighting games that came out. There was like Golden Axe, The Duel, um, Last Bronx. There was Rabbit. There's just he made a lot of different fighting games. So I ended up getting really into the Saturn in the last few months. That's something that I forgot to mention that was part of my journey here the last few months. It's crazy because there's just like all these things that this conversation is kind of stirring in my memory as far as what I ended up what I ended up doing, because it's been almost 2 months, guys. We got a lot to talk about. We've there's been a lot going on, and it's hard to kind of have an organized thought process about it, but just might end up going for that Saturn number one spot if I can figure out some other titles to play on it, because Saturn doesn't have that many titles to begin with. So I'd have to probably get a little bit outside of my comfort zone to snag that number one system master for that. Because I think pretty much all the titles I have played on the Saturn are just like fighting games. I guess there was let's see. I don't know. There's pretty much all fight. There's some Mega Mans that are on Saturn. So that could possibly be something interesting as well, as to try Mega Man for Saturn, because that's a yeah, that system library has been expanded a little bit as part of just all the things that have been going on with the site. So that's something that maybe I'll look into here down the road. I always was a big honestly, I haven't mastered that many Mega Man sets, and that's one of my favorite series growing up as a kid. I've mastered like 3 out of the 5 for Game Boy, um, and then I mastered some of the mastered like one of the Power Fighters sets for arcade for Mega Man, I think, which is a really interesting little like spin-off series. But I haven't really mastered a lot of Mega Man games, and I kind of want to get more into them. Those are, from what I know, some of the more challenging sets on the site. You've got damage lists aplenty. I mean, you've got all kinds of upgrade list playthroughs and things like that. But Mega Man is a series that you know it's a awesome series, and there's a lot of developers that make a lot of games for that. You've got like I think like Alex Gateau's makes like a lot of the different Mega Man hacks and different Mega Man titles. I know that's like one of his big things. So you see a lot of those type of sets coming out lately for just different Mega Man titles and like hacks that are coming out. So maybe that's an avenue that I need to kind of start exploring as well. Because I've talked about this before, but I've been on this big fighting game kick. But it might be time to start branching out again and give myself a break and just mix it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Just kind of keep things interesting, because I think that's what keeps people like you and me and a lot of other people who probably listen to this podcast coming back to the site, right? Just being able to do so many different things, and variety is the spice of life. So, when you're bored of a certain genre, in my case, maybe fighting games, I need to just give it a bit of a break and kind of check out some of these other genres, because I think maybe that'll kind of respark my interest. I'll never lose interest in retro achievements just because I can't get into modern games, and it's just tough for me. I don't own modern consoles. Um, I don't. I just can't get into them. But I think if maybe I take a little bit of a break from fighting games, I'll get a renewed spark to be able to um, not feel. I just feel. I don't want to sound like negative and stuff, but I just feel a little bit stuck right now with King of Fighters because I've committed. I feel like I overcommitted to it a bit, and you know, I'm one of those people that um it's really hard to put something down for me. Like, you ever be on the last achievement on a set and you really should go to bed but you don't?
Oh yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like
know that feel for sure.
like, I don't want to go on and on about it, but unfortunately, because I am no longer work from home, it's a little bit easier for me to make that excuse for myself and put something down. But um, you know, I'm at 87 and a quarter for completion percentage. If I don't master King of Fighters 97, I'm pretty sure the sun will still rise in the morning and will still set in the evening. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for sure, dude.
I need to give myself a break. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on and on, but I was just
No, you're
kind of
good. I
thinking
mean,
about stuff.
honestly, I would probably recommend try not to stress too much about the average completion percentage. I feel like we're kind of going in opposite directions right now, where you're trying to build yours up, whereas I've been kind of letting mine fall because I was above that 90% for a long time, right? That was something
Right, right.
I was really proud of, and I'd like to try to maintain. And lately, it's just been kind of dropping and dropping. Because think about it, with something like the Unwanted, I'm starting all these new games. Some of these games are way too hard, or I'm just not interested enough in them to master them, but I still want to do the beat the game to get like the bronze token or whatever. A lot of these events that I'm doing, they're not necessarily masteries, but I'm playing or experiencing certain games. And it's been difficult for me to tell myself that's okay, right? To just sit there and tell myself it's okay to start a new game and not master it because that goes
Yeah,
so
for
against my
sure.
entire way of thinking. But honestly, I feel like I'm happier for it. I feel like I'm just having a good time playing a wider variety of games. Um, Another thing I was thinking about what you were saying about Mega Man, and honestly, I feel like we have a lot in common there. So I'm like you in that I really love the Mega Man series. I think they're great games, but I feel like people wouldn't guess that about me looking at my RA profile because I've really not played that much Mega Man on RA, and I've mastered even fewer Mega Man games on RA. I think for me, it ultimately comes down to I get really intimidated by those sets
Yeah, for sure.
because when I play Mega Man, I'm not doing Buster only. I'm not doing damageless bosses. I'm doing a chill playthrough to beat the game, and then I beat the game. So it's such a different way of playing the game that I get intimidated, and I think I like psych myself out of it before I even try. But I don't know. I see. Here's what I'm thinking. I definitely want to master Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X at some point because I think both those sets have some pretty challenging achievements in there. But I really love both of those games, and I truly believe I can do it. Like, I don't think any of those achievements, even the absolute hardest ones, I think I'll have to practice a lot for them, but I don't think they're going to be too much for me. I know I could do it with enough persistence. So I don't know that I'm going to sit here and master every Mega Man, but at least those two I really want to get at some point. And then another thing I was thinking is when I get back on Leapfrog, I might be doing a lot of Mega Man then. Because one thing that's nice about Mega Man, especially the classic series, is you kind of know what you're going to get, right? The games have a very clear format. They're not really going to drop surprises at you. There's going to be the Robot Masters, there's going to be 8 of them. There's going to be the Wily stages. It's a very clear format, and I think that would be good for Leapfrog because those are pretty much all at least 5 pointers. So you could just run through a stage, get an achievement or two, maybe do a damage you'll see or there. It's nice to be able to play something and not be going into it with the mindset of, okay, I don't know how many achievements I'll get this session. Like if I play for an hour and a half, I don't know how many achievements I could get. And I think having something that's like guaranteed, something that's known, is going to be really good for me, especially in those later stages of Leapfrog. But at the same time, like, I don't want to plan out way in advance. So this is what I'm gonna play on this day. This is what I'm gonna play. Like I enjoy that flexibility, and I feel like getting back to what we were talking about. I get the idea that you felt like you're kind of putting yourself in a corner with the King of Fighters thing, and I don't know. I just feel like there's so many games on RA. What's the point of boxing yourself in a corner unless it's a corner that you really love? You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
like if you're going to focus on one thing, you should really, really, really love that thing. Otherwise, just experience and a variety, live a little. I don't know. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I mean, no, I would think that you make a really good point. I think, I mean, at this point with what I have left in King of Fighters, I'm like 80 out of 112. So as far as percentage wise, I'm pretty good there. I just really wanted to, I had this goal, and I think I attacked it a little too hard, rather than did it slow and steady wins the race. Cause I had pretty good success. I mean, I mastered like 95 and 96 within a week or two of one another. And, just with this 97, it's been, you know, like you said, I think I just need to kind of not box myself into one corner too much and get in that mentality. And like, I know now, with a lot of the things that are coming through on Game Boy, I mean, based on this conversation, I did start like Revenge of the Gator yesterday because that got a revision, so the set is much more complete. MGN S8M has been putting a lot of time into Project Game Boy, which is awesome because that guy does a lot of awesome sets, and it's exciting. It's exciting for me to see somebody that talented putting in so much time into Project Game Boy because that's obviously that's my stuff. And you know i I am one away from getting 100 Game Boy masteries, so I know there's probably at least a title or two for Game Boy I should probably be doing to hit that 100 marker to kind of celebrate, instead of just kind of sitting around and trying to poke through the last of King of Fighters. But it's just one of those things where, like you said, we get pulled in so many different directions, and we kind of just try and figure out what works for us and how we're enjoying the site. But if you ever feel like you're just not having fun because you're too set on a goal and you're just kind of chasing it down, and you're starting to lose sight of, I think if you're losing sight of having fun, if it's really easy to kind of be in that mindset where, I don't know how to describe it. It's hard to describe. Like, I'm sure you've been there yourself, but it's just like you have a goal and you're chasing it, and then you
Man,
kind of lose
I
sight.
could
You know what
take
I
a
mean?
crack at trying to describe it. I think I know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
It's I've gotten in that zone before. I like to think of it as like a one track mind kind of thing, right? Like, well, it starts out I have some goal, and in the beginning I'm really passionate about it, and I really want this goal, and then over time it gets to the point where I care about the goal less and less, and I'm having less and less fun pursuing the goal, yet I feel like I have to continue because I've come so far. And I think those are the moments where I just need to, you know, stop and think to myself, bro, what are you doing? It's video games. You're playing these for fun to pass the time. It's not that serious. You
yeah.
know, like
Exactly. It's like,
it's really not that serious, man.
yeah, and as I mean, I just like did a paint graph in my mind, like a visual of like as goal as you get closer to goal and like fun goes down, goal closest to goal goes up, and then you just feel like you feel like you're halfway across the swimming pool, and if you put all the effort in if you put as much effort into getting halfway there as you did, then instead of thinking about swimming back, then you'd make it all the way there. But it's just like at the same time, it's just like, ugh, like you gotta have fun with it, and if you're not doing that, then it's not that serious, man. Like we're playing video games, we're fortunate, we're lucky that we get to do that and get to pretty much do whatever we want in some regards. I mean, I have to go to work still every day, but you know, life's pretty okay. Like it's it's not a big deal. So maybe I need to no, like I said, this conversation has been pretty refreshing because you and I, just to be super transparent, we don't get to talk as much anymore outside of the podcast. And
Right,
so this
right.
has been a good way for us to catch up in a sense, right? Because you and I mean, I've been busy with just moving and new job and things like that. I know you've been busy with everything that you've got going on, but yeah, man. I mean, we don't get to hang out as much anymore. We're getting old, so
I hate to look at life that I'm getting old, but it's true,
I
dude.
know.
It's true. It
Yeah,
sneaks up on you.
it really
I feel
does.
like it's
Yeah.
kind of like to get meta for a second here. I feel like it's kind of messed up to look at it this way, but maybe it's a good thing that now we're able to catch up on air, right? Because it's like, oh, this gives
Yeah.
us so much material. This is perfect.
I know it's golden, man. It's like we're
Exactly,
just
dude.
just
This is
two
good
friends hanging out,
content.
having a
Yeah.
conversation, but no, I miss when I mean, to our listeners, I apologize again to you guys cuz we just haven't been able to get together and really get to talk. And when we do talk, it's at least for us as we're recording it, it's a little bit like magic to us in a sense. I mean, maybe Bendy would describe it differently, but it's a little bit like magic that we just get to hang out as friends. And we met, it's been over a year actually at this point because I think I met you and Draco.
Oh man, you're right. Now that I think about it, wow.
And actually,
I
you
didn't
know
get you
it's
an anniversary cake.
I'm so disappointed. Where's my anniversary badge? Anniversary badge cake. No, what was I gonna say? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Dang it, Bendy. No, I oh, what I was gonna say is um the podcast is almost, I think, a year old at this point,
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. So we had our first episode 11 months ago. We released it on June 28th. So in a couple weeks, the podcast will be a year old. So maybe we'll, maybe next episode, not to spoil it or anything, but maybe we'll talk about kind of the course of kind of how the podcast has gone over the last year. I mean, few less episodes than I'm sure both myself and the crew here would have liked, but we put out almost 25 episodes at this point, and I mean that's a pretty big deal. I don't want to toot our own horn too much, but it's been awesome to get all the feedback from people and to have had so many amazing guests on the show. people that have been super awesome. I mean, we've had a lot of guests on at this point, so it's been really nice that we've been able to, you know, get together so many different times and talk about so much stuff that's related to retro achievements. And sometimes we go a little bit off the rails like we're doing now, but I think it's good just to kind of think about where we came from to get to this point.
Dude, you're gonna
uh,
make me all sentimental at this point.
oh man, well, that's it is what it is. I mean, we come a long way, so I think it's
Yeah,
been
for sure, for
it's been an
sure.
awesome journey. And there's no plans on winding things down, you guys. So I just want to kind of clarify that out there for our listeners that we're just doing the best we can. We're trying to get back into the swing of things, and I've had at least a few people ask me, hey, when's the next podcast episode? And I don't want to get too much into how the sausage is made, but we're just busy. We got a lot of things going on with real life situations, as most folks do at some point. Sure would be nice to just kind of sit around and play RA all day, but I'm not able to do that as much as anymore as I'd like. But I have not lost any of my interest in the site or what it has to offer. I'll just say that out there for people that have been wondering, where are they? What's going on? Are they dead? What are they? Are they shutting down the podcast? That's not the case. We're just we're trying to get back into the swing of things, and a lot of stuff came up, and I don't want to beat a dead horse anymore. But I was just kind of going on a bit of a tangent, but just want to reassure people that that's not the case. And we apologize again for not putting anything out there for you guys, because we have a lot of people that really like this, really like to hear us go on and on like this. So
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, dude.
yeah.
And honestly, just to get behind the scenes a tiny bit, just a tiny little bit, we've had lots of conversations about the future of the podcast, and I think we're in a good zone right now. I'm optimistic about the future. We're always experimenting, trying new things. There might be more format changes, there might be some different stuff, but I don't know. I think we're in a good spot right now. I don't feel like we're going to have another hiatus of this length. And if we do, I think, you know, we'll probably communicate a little better. But yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot right now. It's a blast doing this with you and with Draco and King Sizzle, of course, as well. And yeah, I don't know. Did you have any other final thoughts you wanted to fit into this episode? I know that it's tough. There's so much that's happened in the past couple months. I'm sure the moment you hit stop recording, it's to be like, oh, we didn't get to this. So, last
Yeah.
call, I guess. Anything you want to sneak in there?
Yeah, good. No, yeah, I mean, as far as everything that we've talked about, um, there's just been so much that there probably will be something that I forgot. I guess. Oh, one final thing I thought I had was the playtest team. For me, has been an awesome experience. I didn't even get to talk about that. I completely forgot because we've just been having such a good time. I lost track of it. So, um, yeah, there's a playtest team where uh, devs can submit their sets to be playtested, and essentially what that means is you go through a set that somebody's made when it's an unofficial, and you get to test it out, test it for bugs, false triggering achievements, or achievements that don't trigger. And it kind of is a layer of quality control, because if you've been around on the site long enough, you've chances are, if you've been around long enough, you encounter a set that either has a achievement that doesn't trigger, or you boot up the game and an achievement triggers randomly or something like that. So as far as that's concerned, there is now a team called the playtest team, and their job is to kind of do a little bit of quality control with newer devs. And even if you're a dev that has been deving a while and you're confident in your skills, sometimes devs like to submit those to playtest. And there's even a badge that you can earn for playtesting a certain number of sets, finding a certain number of issues, and correctly triggering a certain number of achievements. So there's a little incentive there. And that's kind of one of the awesome things about the dev quest badge, which is for devs essentially kind of the equivalent of that. where you can earn a badge for doing work contributing to the website, the quality of the sets, and things like that. So I think that playtest, I've been a part of it for a little bit. I play tested a few sets. Um, People that know me a little bit know that my previous job was in-game testing, so it's kind of right up my alley as far as something I felt like I would enjoy and be good at. And yeah, no, I've been enjoying doing a little bit of play testing in these last few months. Um, haven't been able to do as much as I would like to do because of just being busy overall. But yeah, with playtests, it's a growing team on the site. There's a writing team now that's going through and correcting a lot of grammatical errors on achievements or spelling mistakes. And I am very nitpicky when it comes to spelling and things like that. So maybe that's something I should look into joining. But overall, just all these little micro communities and things like that. They overall make a lot of large strides for the site. So it's pretty awesome to be part of such a great community, and hopefully playtest continues to grow. When it started out, there were just a few playtesters, and now there's at least, I think, I want to say half a dozen playtesters, a little bit more than that. So if that's something you're interested in checking out, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, but I think Snowpin is in charge of that. So if you hit him up on the Discord and talk to him a little bit, he can probably get you plugged in the right direction for doing a little bit of playtesting. And that was the commercial for playtesting. No, but yeah, playtesting is awesome. So definitely check that out if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in. Did you have anything else, Bendy? Or
Yeah, I just think, shout out to you and the rest of the playtesters. You guys are really doing important work for RA, and I think that's something we haven't really dived into too deeply on the podcast. Is all of these different little groups, these different little branches that really contribute to RA in their interesting ways. And a lot of recent additions we've had are addition to the playtesters. Yeah, there's the new writing requests and in general, just a real push towards site cleanup. I feel like we're really pushing toward the point where RA is becoming a more and more polished experience. Uh, a lot of those old sets that are in bad shape have gotten revisions or are continuing to get revisions. We got the writing requests polishing up the language of the achievements. Soon, hopefully, we'll have V2 really polishing up the site as a whole. We have the whole hub system and whatever the future of that may be. I just feel like we're on the cusp of RA becoming something really, really polished, really respectable, really on a whole other level. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the different people who make that possible, right? Obviously, we can't sit here and list every single person because there's so many different people. But the QA team, in addition, that's been another great team that's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And I guess it's just as an average player, you might not notice a lot of this, right? It's a lot of little things that really add up. And I don't know,
yeah,
I just wanted to take a moment to say, you people, you know who you are. We appreciate you. I don't know how often you get to hear that, but we appreciate you. You're making the site and the community a better place. And that's all I've got, man.
okay. Well, that's no, that's very well put. And like Bendy said, there's a lot of people. There's just so many. I mean, there's too many to list, really. But there's people on the QA team, the writing team, all these different teams. And from an outside perspective, a lot of the time it's if you're not relatively active on Discord, if you're just somebody who listens to the podcast, or if you're not on the site as much, you don't really um, get to see a lot of this stuff in action. So I'm glad that we got to talk about that and kind of highlight what a lot of people's efforts um, are contributing towards. Because yeah, overall the site is ever changing, and having some teams set up to kind of focus and specialize in different areas in order to ultimately improve the quality of the site, I think is nothing but good for the site. And there's just a lot going on behind the scenes that you know is really positive. So on that note, it's been good talking with you, man. That pretty much wraps things up for today's episode of the RA podcast. So for our listeners out there, just be sure to like the video and hit that bell so that you guys don't miss an episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you guys again soon. And, I'm a guy that repeats myself a lot. I get it, but I really appreciate you guys being patient with the podcast and just bearing with us while we kind of reorganize and get things figured out. And hopefully, we will not take 2 months to put out another episode. But really glad that we got to talk, Bendy, and that'll be it for today's episode. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of the RA podcast.